Hello everyone, it's Daniel, Modern Identity Lead at Formula 5. Identity governance and administration is a very important topic. Managing and controlling who has access to what information or resources within our organization can be challenging. But this is a must-have to stay safe and compliant. This is why identity governance and administration is crucial for maintaining security, compliance, efficiency, and risk management within our organizations. In this video, we are going to talk about Microsoft Entra ID Governance and discover some of its features using practical demos. So let's start. Before we will jump into Microsoft Entra ID Governance, let's talk about identity governance first. What is it and why is it important? So, identity governance and administration, or AGA, is a set of processes and technologies that help organizations manage and control who has access to what information or resources within their systems. Now, why is it important? Why AGA is important? By properly managing identities and access, organizations can reduce the risk of unauthorized access to sensitive information or systems. Many industries have regulations and standards that require organizations to have proper controls over access to sensitive data. AGA helps ensure compliance with these regulations by providing audit trails and evidence of proper access management. With AGA in place, organizations can automate many identity-related tasks, such as provisioning and deprovisioning access. This improves efficiency and reduces the administrative burden on IT teams. Overall, identity governance and administration is crucial for maintaining security, compliance, efficiency, and risk management within organizations. So now let's talk about Microsoft Entra ID Governance, so Microsoft's implementation for AGA. When we look at Microsoft Entra products landscape, we can find many different kinds of products there, like Entra ID, External ID, Verified ID. But in this video, we are going to talk purely about Microsoft Entra ID Governance product. So, what is Microsoft Entra ID Governance? Microsoft Entra ID Governance helps ensuring that the right people have the right access to the right resources at the right time. So with Microsoft Entra ID Governance, we can improve productivity, we can strengthen security, and we can automate routine tasks. So what is the goal here? Managing user identities, access rights, and entitlement across ID environments to ensure proper access controls, mitigate risk, and maintain compliance with regulatory requirements. There are three focus areas when it comes to Microsoft Entra ID Governance. It's managing identity lifecycle, managing access lifecycle, and managing privilege access lifecycle. So let's talk about all three areas. So let's start with identity lifecycle capabilities. With ID governance, we can automatically update user information in on-premises Active Directory and Microsoft Entra ID using data from organizations' HR sources. We can utilize lifecycle workflows to automate workflow tasks that can run at certain key events. For example, a workflow can be configured to send a welcome email to the user on their first day at work. There is automatic assignment policies in entitlement management to add and remove a user's group memberships, application roles, and SharePoint site roles based on changes to the user's attributes. There is user provisioning to create, update, and remove user accounts in other applications. Now, let's talk about access lifecycle capabilities in Microsoft Entra ID Governance. Access changes across applications and groups can be automated based on attribute changes. Like for instance, let's say that user has changed the department and now instead of working in marketing department, this user is working in sales department. So with Microsoft Entra Lifecycle Workflows and Microsoft Entra Entitlement Management, we can automatically add and remove users into groups or access packages so that the access to applications and resources is updated automatically. Organizations can also manage which guest users can access on-premises applications. They can regularly check and confirm these access rights using recurring reviews in Microsoft Entra for access recertification. There are also privileged access lifecycle capabilities in Microsoft Entra ID Governance. We can control privileged access, especially considering the risk of misuse linked to administrator rights that can harm an organization. Microsoft Entra Privileged Identity Management, or PIM, which is the feature of ID governance, offers extra controls designed to secure access rights for various resources, including Microsoft Entra, Azure, other Microsoft Online services, and other applications. Microsoft Entra PIM, or Privileged Identity Management, offers features like just-in-time access, role change alerts, multi-factor authentication, and conditional access. These help provide a complete set of governance controls to secure a company's resources. So now let's talk about Formula 5's user journey in context of ID governance. So at the beginning, new user is joining Formula 5 and there is an account created in Microsoft Entra ID tenant. And obviously, when this new user is joining Formula 5, this user needs access to specific applications and resources, so we can automate the granting of access rights to those resources. And those can be cloud resources, cloud applications, but also on-premises applications. But at some point, such user can have a need to access additional resources within our organization. So there is self-service access request when additional access is needed. So user can go to My Access portal and request access to additional resources he or she needs at this moment. And obviously, such access can be reviewed. So there is just-in-time access, alerts, and approval workflows to protect access to critical resources. So for instance, once user requested access to specific resources or to specific access package, on the other side, there is a person who will review this request and then will either grant the access or deny. And obviously with that, there will be a set of alerts generated which can be customized. And obviously after some time, when it comes to access to specific roles or resources, there is access recertification required to reduce the risk. So from time to time, someone from our organization will have to look into the access that is granted to specific people and check whether this specific grant is still valid. If not, maybe person should be removed, or a specific role should be removed for a specific user. Like if I'm application administrator and I have this role assigned, maybe at some point in the future I don't need this role anymore. So this access recertification is really crucial here. And obviously, we want to make sure access rights are removed when user leaves or stops working with Formula 5. And this is also very important. So you can try to imagine the situation that if we work with subcontractor, external person, like a guest user in our tenant, once this guest user is added, this guest user has access to specific resources at Formula 5 organization. Once this person is no longer with us and the project is over, is finished, is delivered, then we want to automatically remove access for this person, and potentially we want to remove this guest account from our tenant. So this is also doable with Microsoft Entra ID Governance. Obviously, when it comes to automation, there is lifecycle automation. So we have joiner, mover, and leaver. So we can use lifecycle workflows to automate different tasks. And underneath, there is ongoing auditing and reporting available to us when it comes to ID governance. But there are also other important features of ID governance, like inbound provisioning API. This API enables connecting Microsoft Entra ID tenant to authoritative systems of record for inbound identity provisioning. ID administrators retain control on identity data flow, transformations, and mapping. So there is Entra ID provisioning service, which can be used to map the records that were stored, for instance, in our HR system, So basing on this data that will be sent to Entra ID provisioning service, we can create user accounts in Microsoft Entra ID tenant or on-premises Active Directory, and then we can provision user accounts to specific applications, cloud applications or on-premises applications. So this is really powerful. ID governance provides machine learning-based recommendations in access reviews. So when we do access review, we can see those helpful hints like, hey, this is inactive user. Probably you should deny access for this user to this group. Or we can see user to group affiliation. So we can see information that, hey, this user has low affiliation to this group. So machine learning uses organizational distance to calculate group affiliation. So if person is not working closely with people under a specific group, maybe this user should not be assigned to this specific group. Maybe this user should be assigned to another group and work with another people. So this is really powerful here. Microsoft Entra ID Governance provides really interesting and helpful dashboard. So we can check identity governance status there. We can, for instance, see how many member users we have in our tenant, how many guest users, how many highly privileged roles are used in our tenant, how many groups we have, how many access packages for entitlement management were created, how many lifecycle workflows were created, or we can configure them directly from this dashboard and we will be redirected to the section where we can move forward with the configuration. So it's really, really powerful, and we can use this dashboard to make sure that we have a full look into our tenant posture, yes, and we can check what is happening when it comes to roles, assignments, access packages, and other things when it comes to ID governance. Perfect, that's about theory. Now it's time to do practical overview of Microsoft Entra ID Governance. So let's jump into Microsoft Entra Admin Center to discover some of those capabilities in practice. Here is Microsoft Entra Admin Center, and from the left side I selected ID Governance tab. And under ID Governance we have different sections: Dashboard, Entitlement Management, Access Reviews, Privilege Identity Management, and Lifecycle Workflows. Let's select Dashboard first. When we click it, there is this Welcome to Identity Governance page displayed. And this is the place where we can see the general information about the governance status for our Entra ID tenant. So for instance, we can see the number of user accounts recently created in our Entra ID tenant. How many applications have direct user assignments? So maybe we should try to use access packages instead of direct assignments. We can also see how many guest user accounts were recently created in our Entra ID tenant. And if we scroll down, we can see the dashboard I mentioned before in the video. So we can see that in this tenant there are 35 active member users, 0 guest users, there are 9 highly privileged roles, 38 groups and teams, 5 applications. And also on the right side, we can see ID governance configurations. So we can see that there is 1 lifecycle workflow configured, there are no access reviews configured, there are 11 applications with app roles, and there are 8 identities with highly privileged roles. And also there is 1 access package for entitlement management. Perfect. Obviously, what we can find here too is a great source of knowledge. So there are different links to different tutorials to make it easier to start with identity governance. And also there are some highlights. So for instance, there is information how to migrate from MIM or how to use ID governance with verifiable credentials. So it's really helpful. We can find many different kinds of details here, and it can be really helpful. Perfect. So right now, let's select access reviews. So what we will do in this video, we will go through some of the features of Entra ID governance. Of course, we will not cover all of them. It's impossible in this video in such short time, but I want to show you basically 3 features. So we will start with access reviews. Then we will see how to use privileged identity management. And then we will move forward with entitlement management and access packages. And in the end, we will discover how to use lifecycle workflows in Entra ID Governance. Perfect. So let's start with access reviews. With access reviews, we can configure continuous review for specific groups or applications to make sure that we are aware what's happening when it comes to membership. So let me put a concrete example here. If I expand identity and groups, let me show all the groups in this tenant. And here there is this M365 digital identity campaign group. So when I select it, obviously this is my M365 group. I can add people to this group. Then I can add people to Microsoft Teams. I can add them to SharePoint sites and so on. And obviously there can be members in this group and there can be owners in this group. So when I click on the owners, you can see that one of the owners is Alex Wildberg. So this is the owner of this group. So perfect. Once this group is created, we want to create access review for this group. So Alex, once a month, will go through such review, will check membership, and potentially will remove some inactive users or users that should not be in this group anymore. So let me get back to access reviews. And here at the top, I will select new access review. And this is the place where I can start configuring access reviews. So select what to review. So here I have two options, teams plus groups or applications. In this specific case, I want to configure access review for my M365 group. So from there, I selected teams plus groups, and I want to select teams plus groups and specific group. So here I will type digital, and then I see my digital identity campaign group. So let's select it. Perfect. And right now we can decide on the scope, whether we want to review only guest users in this group or all users basically. So I will select all users here, and below I can also select inactive users only. So as we can see, when enabled, only users that have been inactive since a specified date will be included in the review. But I want to review all the users, so I will keep it unselected. Perfect. So then I will move to the Reviews tab. In the Access Reviews in Microsoft Entra ID Governance, we have this concept of multi-stage reviews. So we can decide how many stages will be there before there is a final decision whether a user should be, removed in this group or should stay in this group, basically. So if I select multi-stage review, you can see that I can select reviewers, I can provide the stage duration in days, but for this specific review, I'll keep it with one stage. So as you can see, I have to select reviewers. So in this specific scenario, I can either select group owners. So for the digital identity campaign group, this will be Alex and one other person, global administrator, or I can just select specific users. So let's say that from there, I will select Alex only. So I have to find Alex. I have to select Alex from the list, and perfect. And right now I have to specify the recurrence of the review. So the duration, so in this case, this will be 6 days, and review occurrence. So how often I want to do the review. So let's agree that Alex will do it monthly, and start date is today. So it's 21st of February. So it's today. And well, this will end never. So we can configure this access review to end on a specific date, or after the number of occurrences, or never. In this specific case, I want to make sure that Alex will review this specific digital identity campaign group each month. Perfect. So right now I can click settings, and here I have additional options to be selected. So let's discuss them really quickly. Under upon completion settings, there is this auto apply results to resource. So if the user's access is denied, their access to the resource will be removed after the review is completed. So it means that if access is denied, user will be removed automatically from this specific group. So I want to select it, and we have the option to decide what will happen if reviewers, so in this case Alex, don't respond. So then there will be, as we can see, recommendations applied by the system. And what does it mean? So if I change it to take recommendations, then it means that if reviewer, so Alex, did not take any action, then Microsoft Entra, basing on the recommendations, will make this decision. So for instance, as you can see, enable reviewer decision helpers, so no sign in within 30 days. So in this specific case, we want to see all inactive users in this group, and if the user did not sign in within 30 days, user will be automatically removed from this group, even if Alex will not take any action on this review. So this is really powerful. And of course, I can change it to no change, remove access, or approve access. Yeah. So I will set take recommendations, and it means that if person did not sign in within 30 days, then person will be removed from this group and access will be removed for such a person. There is this user to group affiliation I mentioned before. So this recommendation is also available. So we can check this relationship user to group and Entra will, using machine learning, will provide this recommendation like, hey, this user probably should not be in this specific group, but we don't want to use it right now. We want to scroll down, and there are advanced settings. So justification required here. So in this case, the reviewer has to supply the reason for approval. So Alex will have to provide the basically the reason why he approved. Email notifications. So Entra ID will send emails to reviewers when an access review starts, and to the reviewer owner when a review completes. And also additional context for the reviewer email, we can add additional information here. So we can switch to review and create. And here we have to provide review name. So in this case, we'll call it digital identity campaign membership review, like this. And of course we can provide description, but I will keep it empty as this is the demo. So I will just call it digital identity campaign membership review. And I will click create button. So right now this access review is being created. And if I refresh this here, we can see that there is our access review ready. Yeah, status is not started. And if I click it, of course, I can see who is the owner here, which group is reviewed by this access review. Here, obviously, I can also access reviewers. In this case, it's Alex. I can see the scheduled review here. So when it will start and when this will end, basically. And of course, I can modify the settings I configured before. Perfect. So right now, once we enabled such access review, once a month, Alex will have to go through this review, will have to review all the people in the digital identity campaign M365 group and decide whether those people should be there or not. And obviously, Alex will be notified, alerted that there has to be review done on the digital identity campaign group. So this is the email that Alex will receive. Please review access to the digital identity campaign group in F5 Identity Labs. And once Alex clicks start review, my access portal is open and we can see Access Reviews tab. And we can see that there is Digital Identity Campaign Membership Review, and Alex can see all the people in this specific M365 group, and Alex can either approve person, the user, or Alex can click deny, and then this person will be removed from this specific M365 group. And also, important fact is that we have those recommendations here. Like for instance, we can see that all those free users are inactive users. So basically, this can help Alex make a decision to either keep the user or remove the user from the group. And also, if Alex will not take any action for any reason, Entra will decide, based on those recommendations, to either keep the user in this group or remove the user. So in this case, if Alex will not do the review, all those free users will be removed from this group based on the inactive user recommendation. Okay, perfect. So this is about the Access Reviews. It's really powerful. So right now, let's get back to Microsoft Entra Admin Center to discover more features for Microsoft Entra ID Governance. Let's talk about Privileged Identity Management now in Microsoft Entra ID Governance. We can use Privileged Identity Management to manage the lifecycle of role assignments, enforce just-in-time access policy, and discover who has what roles. And before we jump into practical demo, I want to underline one thing. Privileged Identity Management in Entra ID Governance, it's not only about Microsoft Entra roles, and making sure that we know who has which role when it comes to Entra, but it's also about Azure Cloud Resources and RBAC. So in this demo, we will focus on Microsoft Entra roles, but I want you to remember that you can also use Privileged Identity Management for the roles in RBAC, so in the Azure Cloud. Perfect. So right now, let's open Microsoft Entra roles section. And to open Privileged Identity Management, of course, we have to expand Identity Governance and select Privileged Identity Management. And from there, we can select Microsoft Entra roles. And this is the place where basically we can configure Privileged Identity Management. So I will select roles. And from there, I will try to find Privileged Role Administrator role. And we will use this role as an example. Let's look at the description of this role. So users with this role can manage role assignments in Microsoft Entra ID, as well as within Microsoft Entra Privileged Identity Management. In addition, this role allows management of all aspects of Privileged Identity Management. This role is considered privileged because one or more of its permissions are privileged. Okay, great. So why I'm talking about this Privileged Role Administrator role here? Because we will see how to assign this role to the specific user for a specific time. So now let's switch to another browser and let's see how Microsoft Entra Admin Center looks like for Alex Wilber. So here is Microsoft Entra Admin Center where I signed in as Alex Wilber. And right now, when I will open Access Reviews tab, for instance, under Identity Governance, we can see that there is unauthorized exception from, like, I cannot access this section basically. I'm not allowed to do it. I don't have specific role. And obviously, the same is for Privileged Identity Management. So when I will open this and I will select Microsoft Entra roles, for instance, and roles, Add Assignments button is grayed out. So I don't have this Privileged Role Administrator role, which is required to configure Access Reviews and Privileged Identity Management. So right now what we will do, we will use Privileged Identity Management and we will make an assignment to Alex. So Alex will be able to elevate his role to Privileged Role Administrator so he can configure Access Reviews in Microsoft Entra Admin Center. So let's see how to do it. So again, I'm in Microsoft Entra Admin Center, signed in as Global Administrator. So right now under Privileged Identity Management, I will create assignments for Privileged Role Administrator. So I will click Add Assignments, and from there, obviously I have to select the role. It's selected already, so privileged role administrator. Scope is directory because this is the Entra role. And here I have to select members. So what I will do here, I can either select users or groups. So in this case, I will select Alex Wilbur. And right now, Alex Wilbur will be able to elevate his permissions to become privileged role administrator. So under settings here, I have assignment type to be selected, eligible or active. So I can either permanently enable this role for Alex, so he will be always like privileged role administrator, or I can say like, okay, Alex will become this privileged role administrator for this period, and I have to provide justification. So I will select eligible because I would like to present the whole flow where Alex will try to elevate his permissions. So he will request this specific role. So I will select eligible, and now I will click assign. And right now, when I will refresh, I can see that Alex Wilbur is eligible to be assigned to privileged role administrator. And when I switch to active assignments, there are no results because Alex is not yet privileged role administrator. He can elevate his permissions. He can request basically to become privileged role administrator. So let's see basically how he can do it. So here is Microsoft Entra Admin Center again, and Alex Wilbur signed in here. So this is what Alex will see basically. So when Alex will select privilege identity management and select my roles, Alex can see privileged role administrator under eligible assignments. Under active assignments, there are no assignments, obviously. So what Alex can do, he can activate this role. So here is this activate button. So when Alex will click on it, Alex can decide for how long he would like to get privileged role administrator. And obviously this value can be changed. So let's say that Alex would like to elevate his permission to be privileged role administrator for 3 hours, and we have to provide the reason here. So Alex will provide the reason. I need to configure new access review for my team like this, and Alex will click activate. So in this specific scenario, we can see that right now his role is being activated to be privileged role administrator. And obviously there is some validation done underneath. And after a few seconds, we can see that Alex's role is elevated to be privileged role administrator. And right now, as you can see, there is a sign-in operation again happening. And we can see that if we select active assignments, Alex is right now privileged role administrator. And obviously he can deactivate this role in this specific scenario. But for now, let's keep it like this. So now, when Alex will go to the access reviews, we can see that right now, Alex can access access review section, and Alex can click new access review tab to create new access review basically for his security group, application, or M365 group. Perfect. So this is how Alex can use privileged identity management to elevate his role. And if we get back to privileged identity management and my roles section here, as I mentioned before, under active assignments, Alex can click deactivate this specific role. This is a really powerful mechanism because we can assign specific roles only for a specific period, and we can assign those roles to specific people so they can complete their tasks, and then this role will be removed. So this role assignment will be removed. So even if Alex will not click deactivate button here after 3 hours, this role assignment will be removed. So Alex will not be privileged role administrator anymore. Okay, perfect. So right now, let's talk about entitlement management. Before we configure any access package, let's discuss the scenario we are going to implement here. So this is Digital Identity Campaign M365 group created in Microsoft Entra ID. This group collects all the people that will work on this digital identity campaign. With this group, there is also dedicated team created on Microsoft Teams called Digital Identity Campaign with general channel. And also for this specific group of people that will work on digital identity campaign, there is a dedicated SharePoint site created for collaboration. So now what we will implement here is the scenario where we will create catalog, we will add resources to this catalog in the entitlement management. Then we will create access package for external users, so guest users, and we will see from the guest user perspective, like a contractor perspective, how this will work. So how external person can get access to those resources and can start working on those resources. So let me get back to Microsoft Entra Microsoft Entra Admin Center, and there I will select Identity Governance and Entitlement Management. And now on the left side, we can see catalogs. So here is the place where we can create different kinds of catalogs. And catalog is a container to group related resources and access packages to make it easier to manage them. So there is built-in catalog called General, but also I created Global Marketing Catalog here. And to create new catalog, we click New Catalog. We have to provide the name, description, and also we have to decide whether this catalog is enabled and enabled for external users. So our catalog called Global Marketing is available for external users. So let me click it. And here, as we can see, it's enabled for external users. There are no resources yet in this catalog. So let me switch to resources. And here we can add different kinds of resources to this catalog. So let me click Add Resources. And as you can see here, I can either add groups or teams, applications, or SharePoint sites. So here I will click Groups and Teams. And from there, from this blade, I will select specific group, which will be Digital Identity Campaign Group. Yeah, this one. So let me select this. And also I will try to find a specific SharePoint site. So Digital Identity Campaign, SharePoint site, let me put it here and let me click Add button. So those resources are now being added to this catalog. Success, perfect. So we have 2 resources in this catalog. Under access packages, we don't have access packages yet. We have to create such access package. So we will click New Access Package, and from there we have to provide information about this specific access package. First of all, we have to provide the name, so it will be Digital Identity Campaign Access Package, and then we have to provide description. So let's keep it simple. This access package provides access to Digital Identity Campaign resources, like this, to make it simple. Then we have to select resources. And those resources obviously are kept in our container, which is called catalog. So from there, I will select groups and teams first. And under groups, as you can see, I have Digital Identity Campaign group. So let me select it. And also I will click SharePoint sites. And here I can see that this Digital Identity Campaign is visible here. So let me select it. And obviously I have to select role, which this user will have in specific resource. So when accessing Digital Identity Campaign M365 group, I want to make this user a member of this group. And when it comes to SharePoint site, when this user will access this SharePoint site, I want to add Digital Identity Campaign member role to this specific user. Perfect. Now let's move to requests. So users who can request who can request access basically. So those can be users in our own directory, Microsoft Entra ID directory, outside of our directory, and also there are some other options here. So let me select for users not in our directory, yeah, and I will select all users, all connected organizations, and any new external user. So basically, for the demo purpose, we will use some external test account, guest account, to access this access package. But obviously, in the real world scenario, it's worth to verify who can access this specific access package, even from external organization. Yeah. So this can be also done in Microsoft Entra ID. So the scenario we are going to implement here is the scenario where we will provide access to digital identity campaign resources to external guest user. So basically, external guest user will sign in to my access portal and will be able to request this specific access and request access to those resources. And after the access review is done, so once someone will review this request, then this guest user will obtain access to those resources, so Teams and SharePoint site. Perfect. So let me scroll down. Obviously, for all users, even those external ones, approval is required, so it's mandatory. And we require justification. There will be one stage only for the review. And this will be internal sponsor, not external. So there will be internal user responsible for this specific campaign and access. And here I have to select fallback person. So let me do it really quickly. So here I will select users and I will add Alex Wilder, like this. Yeah, so he will be the approver for this access package. So when guest user will request access to those resources in the catalog, Alex Wilder is responsible for the review as a fallback reviewer. So here is the internal sponsor. This will be the first approver. So when I say internal sponsor, this is the person who invited guest user to the tenant. And fallback, basically, as we can see here, if the system cannot find the approver who should do this request, Alex Wilder will be responsible for this review. Perfect. So decision must be made in how many days? So how many days this person, this internal sponsor, will have to accept this request? So let's put 7 days, and also we have to select require approver justification. Just for the demo purpose, it's not required, it's not mandatory, but let's select it to see how it works. And we have to enable this access package for requests. So we must publish it somehow, yeah? So those users, those external users can request access to those resources. Perfect. So right now, before I will continue, there is this cool option to use verified ID service. So before someone can access any resources from this access package and request those resources, this person will have to verify his or her identity using verifiable credential. It's really powerful. We will not discuss this in this demo, but it's doable. So we can add verified ID service here. So anyone who wants to request this access to those resources will have to use verifiable credential, will have to present it to confirm identity. Okay, so now we have to provide some questions. So before specific person will be able to access, to request the access to those resources, we will ask questions. So this person will have to answer those questions. So what is your role in this project? And answer format can be short, multiple choice. So let's keep it short. And let's put it like this. Why you need access to this package, like this, and also short answer. Perfect. Next, life cycle. So we have access package assignments expiry time here. So when those assignments will expire. So let's change it to 120 days. And users, there is also this option, users can request specific timeline here. Yes, so if enabled, users requesting this access package will be able to submit a custom start or end date for their access, basically. So we can give them this option. And this is about the access package configuration, but there is also this access review section. So if we decide to use access reviews, then let's say monthly, the person will have to go and review access to all those resources in this access package. So it's really powerful. If I select no, it doesn't mean that the person will automatically obtain access to those resources. Not, because as you remember, under requests tab, under approval section, here we provided internal sponsor as a first approver. We selected internal sponsor, and the fallback sponsor will be Alex Wilber. Yeah. So in this case, if someone wants to access those resources provided by this access package, this person will have to first answer all those questions we configured, and then this there will be approval gate. Yeah. So this internal sponsor will have to review this request and then accept or reject. But also under lifecycle, we can enable access reviews to make sure that from time to time we are looking into this access package just to check, like, okay, who has access to what, which resources, and so on. For now, let's select no, because I want to show you just an access package functionality. So then there are some custom extensions we can use, but in general, we can create this new access package now, which will be under the global marketing catalog. So I will click create button. It's now being validated. And after some time, we should see that this access package was created successfully. So now it's being created. And once this access package is created, then what we have here, as you can see, there is my access portal link. This is really powerful because we can copy this link and we can directly send it to the person, and this person will open my access portal, and this person can request access to those resources under this access package. So it's really helpful because we can just take this link and say, okay, what do you need? Hey, I need access to resources under marketing catalog. Okay, that's fine. So let me share the access package link with you so you can use my access portal to request access to those resources. Someone will review this request and accept or reject. So that's really really powerful. So here, before we will share this specific access package, we have to first create a guest user account. Yeah. So in this specific scenario, we are going to invite guest user to our Microsoft Entra ID tenant, and we will assign internal sponsor for this person, this guest user, and then we will share this link we see here with this person. So we can see how guest user will request access and then how this approval process works. Okay, so let's do it now. So here is the blade where we can provide details for this guest user. So we will invite Justice Brown, and here I provided email, display name. There will be invite message sent, hello, welcome aboard. And also under properties here, the user type is guest, obviously, but also we have to provide sponsors. So just for the demo purpose, I will use the same person, which is Alex Wilber. So let me load the list of the users within this tenant, and I will select Alex, and I want to assign Alex as a sponsor for this specific guest user. Perfect. So right now, obviously I could fill out all other details, but then there are some assignments. I will not do it. I will review and invite. So right now I'm inviting Justice to my Entra ID tenant as a guest user, obviously. So right now the invitation is being sent, and right now I would like to show you what is happening from the other side, so from the guest user perspective. Yes, so we will see how this guest user is basically accessing Entra, and then how this person can request access to those specific resources under access package we created before. This is the email that Justice received. So I will click accept invitation. So here, obviously, because this is external user, not in any Microsoft Entra ID tenant, I have to use one-time code that is sent to my email. So I will click it. And right now I have to enter the code that was sent. So let me refresh here. And this is the code. And here I have to provide the code. And once I provided the code, I will be successfully authenticated. Obviously, there is a permissions request, so I have to read it carefully and either cancel or accept. In this case, I will accept. And then, as we can see, I have to configure multi-factor authentication also. For now, let me skip this step. So I will configure this and we will see what will happen from the My Access portal perspective. Perfect. So I configure MFA, and right now I can successfully access my applications portal. And right now you can try to imagine the situation that in a real world scenario, someone needs to provide this access package link to this person. So probably manager like Alex Wilber will write an email like, hey, Justice, welcome aboard. Here is your link to the access package so you can have access to all required resources, for instance. Yes. So here I will paste the link that we saw when we configured access package. And now, after successful authentication, we have access to section called access packages under My Access portal. And here is the information displayed to us, Digital Identity Campaign Access Package. So here we can click continue, but before I will do it, we have section called resources. So we can see that we will be added to the group called Digital Identity Campaign, and we will have access to the SharePoint site. I will click continue. And here are the questions that we configure. What is your role in this project? So let's say copywriter. Why do you need access to this package? I will work on the campaign with other people, like this. And we don't want to request for a specific period, but it's doable. And there is business justification, so I can provide information. I'm joining the team as copywriter, like this. And we can click submit request. So right now, this request is being proceeded. So let's see what is happening from the Alex Wilder perspective. So the sponsor, yeah. So this person has to review this request that was created by Justice, and this person will be able to either accept or reject this request. So let's see it from Alex Wilder perspective. Here is Alex's mailbox, and as we can see, here is this message: approve or deny the request by February 29th for Justice Brown. So here, Alex has to click approve or deny request. Alex will be redirected to My Access portal, and under this portal, Alex will have to decide. So obviously, Alex will review the answers that Justice provided, and Alex will decide whether to accept this request or to deny it. So let me show you that really quickly. So in My Access portal, under approvals, we can see that there is one pending approval for Justice to request the package called Digital Identity Campaign Access Package. So here, Alex has to click review. And as we can see, here are the details. So request details, for instance. So there is business justification. I'm joining the team as copywriter. Here are our questions. So what is your role in this project? Like copywriter, yeah, and I will work on the campaign with other people. So once Alex reviewed it, he can click either approve or deny. So in this case, let's click approve and provide the reason. So let's provide the reason. Justice is verified copywriter who will work with marketing team, like this. And then we have to click submit button. And right now, this access to those resources for Justice is being provisioned. So right now, Justice will be able to sign in and access Microsoft Teams, team and channel, and also the SharePoint site. So let's see it from Justice perspective again. So once Justice request was approved by Alex, Justice can right now access all those resources. So under My Access portal, under Access Packages, under Active Package, Justice can click Digital Identity Campaign Access Package, and here are the resources that were assigned to this specific access package. So Justice can now open Microsoft Teams. Justice can open SharePoint site. So now, when we switch to those tabs, we will see that Justice has access to all the resources we mentioned before. So for Microsoft Teams, we will use a web application. So let's see once it's loaded. And also on the other side, SharePoint site is being loaded. So we will see it. Yes, perfect. So Justice right now has access to Digital Identity Campaign SharePoint site. And right now we are switching to Microsoft Teams, where Justice should have access to Digital Identity Campaign team on Microsoft Teams. So let's see it. Perfect. So right now Justice has access to this Digital Identity Campaign team and general channel, and she can work with other team members on this Digital Identity Campaign. Perfect. So right now, let's try to discover how to automate all those things. Because you can say, hey, Daniel, all the things you showed, those are obviously under Identity Governance, but they are available under P2 license in Microsoft Entra ID. And there is a lot of manual work, like for instance, sharing this link with Access Package, yes, with the specific person. So right now, we will see how to use lifecycle workflows in Microsoft Entra ID Governance to automate some of the things we discussed before. To access lifecycle workflows, we have to open Microsoft Entra Admin Center, and under Identity Governance, we have to select Lifecycle Workflows. And from there, we have access to create new workflows. So let me do it really quickly here. So I will click Create Workflow. And as we can see, there are different kinds of templates for joiner, mover, leaver scenarios. So for instance, there is a joiners template, onboard pre-hire employee. Configure pre-hire tasks for onboarding employees before their first day. But also there is a leaver workflow template like pre-offboarding of an employee. So configure pre-offboarding tasks for employees before their last day of work. So now in this specific demo, we will focus on the joiner scenario and we will use onboard new hire employee template. So from there, I will click select, and obviously we have to configure this workflow. So we have to provide the name. So here is the workflow details. So let's keep it like onboard new hire employee. And we have to provide description, of course. And then there is a trigger type. So for now, it's time-based attribute. And if we scroll down, we can see that event user attribute can be either employee hire date or created date time. For now, let's switch to created date time. And as we can see, there are also two additional properties: days from event and event timing. So in this specific scenario, because of the fact that we are creating user and it's joiner scenario, we want to immediately trigger this workflow once the employee is created in our Microsoft Entra ID tenant. So that's why we can see 0 here, and we cannot configure this, by the way. Yes, so we always trigger this workflow when employee is created in our directory, or when the employee hire date is basically equal to current date. So for now, we will select created date time. We can click next, configure the scope. And again, this is really powerful because we have a possibility to configure different rules here. So for instance, here we will use department property. And if this department property equals marketing, then this workflow will be triggered. And this is basically what we will do because we talk about digital identity campaign example in this video. So that's why we will stick to department called marketing. And also, let me click add expression and select end. And from there, we have to find user type. Because as you can see, and as you probably know, we can use identity workflows, lifecycle workflows for different kinds of users, not only the members, but also for the guest users. And this is what we will do here in this demo. So here, we will trigger this workflow if user type equals guest. Perfect. So right now, let's review the tasks. So this is really the meat when it comes to this template. So what will happen when this template for lifecycle workflow will be triggered? So first of all, as we can see, there are some default tasks and we can change them, change the order, as you can see. So I can move it here and up and down. So it's really cool. And what can we do? So basically in this template, we enable user account because initially it's disabled. We are sending welcome email, and maybe we are adding user to specific groups. But in this specific scenario, let me remove this last step. Yeah. And first of all, we want to enable user account once it's created in the directory. And we will send welcome email to the user. And here we will modify this description, and important thing is that we can customize this specific template, as you can see. So we can provide the subject, message body. There are also some parameters we can include, like temporary access pass. So it's really powerful. And we can adjust the translation. Yeah. So in this case, this will be dynamic based on the recipient. So it's by default. Let me show you also some additional tasks. So when I click add task, we can see that there are built-in tasks that we can use in Entra ID Governance. So in this case, as you can see, we can add user to specific groups. We can disable user account, enable user account, remove user from selected groups. We can generate temporary access pass and send it to the user. But also, obviously, we can use custom tasks here. So it's really powerful because if we decide that, for instance, we have our custom scenario we want to implement, we can use Azure Logic Apps and we can connect them with lifecycle workflows so they will be triggered and we can proceed with some custom tasks that should be done. Okay, perfect. So right now, what we will do, this is just a demo, so I want to show you that we will enable this user account and we will send a welcome email to the user. And in the welcome email, we want to also include the information to the user like, hey, use my access portal to basically access specific resources. So like this SharePoint site I showed you before, and access Microsoft Teams team. Okay, perfect. So let's see how to do it. First of all, let me remove this enable user account task because we will immediately enable user account when we will invite guest user to our tenant. So I will remove this and let's keep send welcome email tasks for now only. So let me click it, and once the template is loaded, we will customize the message that will be sent to the user, because what we will basically see here is the scenario where we will invite guest user to our tenant. We will assign specific group to this tenant, or we will assign this guest user to a specific group, which is the digital identity campaign. And then we will send welcome email to this user once account is created. So here I will change the subject and the message body. Welcome on board. We are happy that you are joining us. Here you can find all the resources under My Access portal. Sign in with your account and select Access Packages. Under Active section, you can find all resources you need to start. Perfect. So let me save it. And right now, let me click Review and Create. At the bottom, there is this Enable Schedule option. So when we select it, then this workflow will work on schedule. So in this specific scenario, it will be always triggered when there is new user created in our Microsoft Entra ID tenant. So let me select it and then let me click Create button. And now after a few seconds, our workflow is ready to be used. So now let's invite guest user to our tenant to see what will happen next. So let's invite external user to our tenant. Here I have to provide email. This will be just a test email from Minute Mailbox, Minute Inbox service. And here we have to modify the display name. So let's do it quickly. And once it's done, we have to add also properties. So first of all, user type is guest, yeah, and the department is marketing, as we agreed before. And also here we have to add sponsor. It will be Alex Wilber again. So let me find Alex here, perfect. And that's it. Basically, I could add more details, but for now that's enough. Assignments. So here we can add this user to the group. And what we want to do, we want to add this user to a specific M365 group, which is Digital Identity Campaign. So let's find this group, Digital Identity Campaign, perfect. And before I will continue, important fact is that in a real world scenario, in our lifecycle workflow configuration under tasks, we could configure more tasks. So for instance, we could add user to specific group, like new employees group on Microsoft Teams automatically. So we don't have to do those assignments here. Those assignments can be done automatically. And also what we can do, we can request access to specific access package from the lifecycle workflow. So it's really powerful. This is just a simple demo, but we can add more tasks to automate all those things. Perfect. So now I will click Review and Invite, and I will click Invite button. So right now, this user is being invited to my Entra ID tenant, and let's see what will happen then. So obviously, here, under a few seconds, I should receive email that my account is ready. So let's check it. Let me click Refresh button. Yeah, perfect. So we are invited to the tenant. So right now I will have to accept this invite and then we will see what will happen next. So let me configure it really quickly to not waste time, and then we can move forward to see what will happen when a lifecycle workflow is triggered. Perfect. So once guest user was added to our tenant, workflow was triggered successfully. We can see that we received this welcome aboard message. Let's open it and let's scroll down. And as we can see, there is this information, welcome aboard. We are happy that you are joining us. Here is the link to all your resources. So now guest user can copy it or can just open it in the browser in another tab and can access all the resources under access packages. Before we summarize this video, I would like to also talk about licensing fundamentals so we can understand licenses and capabilities for Microsoft Entra ID Governance. Let me keep it as simple as possible. So let's start with Microsoft Entra ID license types. Obviously, there is free edition, so we can use Microsoft Entra ID for free. It's included with Microsoft Cloud subscriptions such as Microsoft Azure or Microsoft 365. And then we have those two license types. Microsoft Entra ID P1 or Premium P1, which is available as standalone product, which we can buy or included with Microsoft 365 E3 for enterprise customers and Microsoft 365 Business Premium for small to medium businesses. And then we have Microsoft Entra ID P2 or Premium P2, which is available as standalone product or included with Microsoft 365 E5 for enterprise customers. And typically in the enterprise world, we will see those two license types. Microsoft Entra ID P1 in the smaller organizations and probably Microsoft Entra ID P2 in larger organizations. So once we have one of those licenses, we can access Microsoft Entra ID Governance features. But to do it, we will need additional license for that. License for Microsoft Entra ID Governance. And here is the thing, like there are two types of licenses, but they are about the same features to be accessed. Let me explain this. So there is Microsoft Entra ID Governance license, and this one requires you to have Microsoft Entra ID P1 license or Microsoft 365 E3, E5 licenses, and all others mentioned on this slide. So to get Microsoft Entra ID Governance license, we need to have at least Microsoft Entra ID P1 license. Now, there is second license, which is called Microsoft Entra ID Governance Step Up for Microsoft Entra ID P2. And this license requires you to have at least Microsoft Entra ID Premium P2 license or other licenses mentioned on this slide. And now the case is that both licenses provide access to the same set of features. It's only about the price and about the prerequisites and naming convention here. So these products contain the basic identity governance capabilities that were in Microsoft Entra ID P2 and additional advanced identity governance capabilities. So both licenses, both products, Microsoft Entra ID Governance and Microsoft Entra ID Governance Step Up for Microsoft Entra ID P2, those have the same capabilities and those provide the same access for features available in Entra P2 and also some additional features, advanced identity governance features. So these two licenses provide the same identity governance capabilities. The difference between the two products is that they have different prerequisites. So when we look at the list of features that are available in the free Entra ID tenant, features under Microsoft Entra ID P1 license and under P2 license, we can see that if we buy Microsoft Entra ID Governance license, we will have access to all features available. Yeah. So for instance, if we have Microsoft Entra ID P1, we don't have access to entitlement management. It's available in the P2 license. But if we want to get access to all features from Microsoft Entra P2, and we want to use advanced features that are provided by Entra ID Governance, like lifecycle workflows, we can buy Microsoft Entra ID Governance license. And then we will get access to entitlement management, and then we will get access to lifecycle workflows. And the same is for P2. If we have P2 license, we can buy this Entra ID Governance license, and then we will have access to all those features, advanced features available in the ID governance, like lifecycle workflows, for instance, yes? Or entitlement management with verified ID. And I encourage you to learn more about licensing fundamentals under the link provided at the bottom of this slide, but hopefully now it's clear. So those two licenses for ID governance provide the same features. It's only about the prerequisites and obviously about the price. But before we will move forward with pricing, let me show you this diagram really quickly, this chart here. So Microsoft Entra ID Governance capabilities are all of them, like lifecycle workflows, actionable dashboard, which we saw, access requests with verified ID, and also machine learning access reviews recommendations. Yes, those are the features we discussed. And obviously, in the heart of this chart, we have access reviews, entitlement management, and privilege identity management. And now what we see inside this chart, so access reviews, entitlement management, and privileged identity management, those features are available for Microsoft Entra ID Premium P2, basically. Yeah. So if we have P2 license, we got access to access reviews, entitlement management, and privileged identity management features. But if we buy Microsoft Entra ID Governance license, then we will get access to the dashboard, to lifecycle workflows, to automate different tasks. We'll get access to access requests using verified ID, and we will also get machine learning access review recommendations. So that's the difference here. And when it comes to pricing, here is the difference. It's about the price and prerequisite. So if you are a customer which already owns Microsoft Entra ID Premium P1 license, you will have to pay $7 per user per month for Microsoft Entra ID Governance license. But if you have Microsoft Entra ID Premium P2 license, then you have to pay $4 per user per month. And there is a promotion for that. So right now, it's about the price. Yes, if you have Premium P1 license for your Microsoft Entra ID tenant, you have to pay $7 per user per month. If you have Premium P2 license for your Microsoft Entra ID tenant, then you have to pay $4 per user per month. One disclaimer, this price can change, so it's always worth to visit official pricing page for Entra, available under the link presented on this slide. There we can find all prices for all license types for Microsoft Entra ID and ID Governance. So I encourage you to visit this link to make sure that you see the current price per each license. Perfect. So this is it about Microsoft Entra ID Governance. I hope you found this video interesting and helpful. If you have any other questions, I encourage you to contact me directly. The email is presented on this screen. And obviously, I encourage you to visit Insights blog under formula5.com, where I'm publishing other articles about Entra products, including verified ID and external ID. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next videos.